Hi, and welcome to the Animators. Today we have a special guest. He's in Montreal, Canada. He's actually originally from Portugal. He's been in the animation industry for about 15 years. And welcome to the show, Tiago.
Hi, Brian and Tim. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
tell us a little
Thank you.
bit about yourself.
Well, I am Portuguese, just like you said, and this thing of being an animator in Portugal, especially in my generation, was kind of a weird thing. Like it wasn't a thing actually. It wasn't a thing that I could aspire to be. So it all feels like things just unfolded miraculously, I guess. I was always a fan of cartoons and grew up watching Disney, Pixar, witnessed the transition from 2D to 3D, and then everything just blending together again. I remember being on my graphic design graduation year in Lisbon, thinking I wasn't really in love with what I was studying, and essentially I was just coasting in college, really. And when I stumbled upon a subject called digital drawing, this was back in 2007. I thought they were going to teach me software like Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, but instead the teacher turned out to be a Lightwave 3D enthusiast. Now, to those that are not familiar with Lightwave, it used to be a software package almost as relevant as Maya. It's still a thing, but it was almost as relevant as Maya, 3ds Max, and now like even Blender is now. So I fell in love with 3D from that moment, and I wanted to learn everything, like from texturing, modeling. Like it was like this thing that was unfolding. I thought it was saved to some sort of like Olympus mountain in Hollywood, and the fact that it was accessible was so inspiring and surprising, really. And yeah, and then I realized that in Spain, the neighboring country, there were people that were working at advertising studios, and there were even like small animation studios in Spain, and that's where everything just caught on. And I started working in this industry first with television series, and then eventually feature films. Then came the jump through the Atlantic over here to North America, and that's where like the real action began. Sure.
So what are some of the studios or the projects that you've worked on in the past that we might be familiar with?
Yeah, so I worked with first. I think the very first feature I worked on was Capture the Flag by Lightbox Animation Studios in Spain. Then came Tad the Lost Explorer 2, which was a big thing within the Spanish speaking community worldwide. But then here in Canada, I worked at Real Effects for a project called Rumble that premiered on Netflix. Back to the Outback, also for Netflix. There were stuff in the middle for like toy licenses, like Playmobil. Like there was a Playmobil movie. Also at On Animation, now defunct On Animation here in Montreal, but also at Micros. Then it was really nice. I worked at Bardell on. I can now say it finally on Ice Age, the new Ice Age movie that's about to premiere in 2027. Right. Did a few did some support on the Real Effects movie Scoob for Scooby Doo license. Yeah. And right now, like I can't really say where I'm working. It's at DNEG, but it's for a top American studio worldwide on a very important flagship IP.
Hush, hush, hush.
Hush, hush, hush.
So did I read where you worked on Sergeant Stubby?
That's correct. That's correct.
It's
worked
funny
also
because I was reading through your bio and I saw that, and it just so happened that about 2 years ago I saw that movie in the middle of the night watching, and I thought, man, that would be a great movie. It's a great animation. It was well done. And then I found out it was a true story, and I did some research on the backdrop of it and things like that. And if anybody doesn't know who Sergeant Stubby is, he was a dog in World War II that befriended a U.S. soldier in France and ended up traveling with him and ended up becoming a war hero himself. But Sergeant Stubby, it was funny because I thought about that show a lot, and a friend of mine in the music business who is a songwriter, and she also does sync music for movies and videos and things like that. Her name is Donna. She she had posted one day that she was so excited that she got to be part of this movie called Sergeant Stubby. And so I reached out to her and I got a hold of the lady who's doing the promotions for it, because it has become the official movie for America 2050. And they're taking it around to the VAs, centers and stuff like that, and showing it. And she said that it's not going to be available for TV platforms until 2027. But when they get ready to do that, we're looking at having it on our TV platform that Tim and I are working on right now. So it's funny to see that you worked on that, because I just got through working, talking to her a few weeks ago.
That's so funny and
Yeah.
surprising. I didn't even remember now, but yes, and that is the movie that first got me into Canada. They
Oh,
were just
really?
staffing up. Yeah, they were staffing up. Like even when it was about 4 months left, and it was just like a short contract. They just needed
Yeah.
a pair of hands. And production, I think, from what I heard, was a little bit shaky and contrived, and there were management situations where directors were a little bit cast aside. Supervisors took more of a directing role. Also, there was a lot of things going on, but I had a great experience, and I
Yeah.
learned so much on that show. It was to me like my big break here
Yeah.
in North America,
Yeah.
and now that I look back, and it's a very heartwarming movie, and
Yes.
a very original story. It
Mhm.
reminded, like, when I remember when they were recruiting, they were saying, "Hey, Tiago, have you ever watched this Steven Spielberg movie called War Horse?" And I said, "Yeah, I actually remember that movie." And they said, "Well, we're doing something similar, but it's with a dog. So the story is about the dog,
Mhm.
not about uh, Conrad, I think was the name of the
Yeah.
soldier that befriended
Yeah.
the dog." And I'm like, "Oh, this looks like an original story." And the animation quality is really high, I think.
Yeah.
And it
It
was this
really is.
sort of like one-off thing that this director was doing. I think he was a documentary. He was coming from the documentary world,
Yes.
and so it was like a one-off thing. It felt like a wild card in the
Yeah.
animation.
He's
Yeah.
from France, and the lady who's doing the promotion, I'm supposed to get back with her because we're looking at having him
Mhm.
come on the podcast too, because they did this quite a few years back. I mean, you worked on it quite a few
Right.
years back, but from what she told me, the promotion side of it didn't really take off. They didn't have a lot of money for
Exactly.
promotions and things like that. So, but it's caught hold now in the U.S. because of America 250, and so they're really promoting it through that, and they're going to try to release it to some big theaters. They're doing like she was laughing. She said when we take it to the VA centers, it's really not, or even the what are they called? The like we have the American Legion here. The one that is here in the village is actually the largest American Legion in the U.S. And they take it to these American Legions and they show it. But she said it's not really a red carpet; it's more like a red throw rug. Because they just do a small gathering, and stuff. But yeah, it's really starting to catch on, and they're trying to make something, get some promotions behind it. So that'll be
There's a lot of
exciting.
emotion. There's a lot of
Yeah,
emotional moments in that movie, and the fact that it's
yes,
based on off a real story. Like I
yeah,
remember reading about the dog, and there were many dogs like that, but they ranked him as a sergeant. Even I think that's one
yeah.
of the few
Yeah,
few times that
when he
ever.
came back, they had parades for him, and he had all these
Yeah,
medals. And when he passed away, they actually have a bronze statue, I think, of him somewhere. And I'd heard that they taxidermied him, and he was in the Smithsonian for a while or something. But yeah,
could be.
it's I've never heard of it, and I'm kind of a history buff, and so when you hear about a dog that, and literally, I don't know, Tim, if you know much about the movie, but literally this dog befriended this soldier, and then snuck on the train with him and he didn't know until they got over to the battlefields, and here he is, this dog that stayed with him, and they even made him a special gas mask so he could go into areas where they were
Yes,
using
that's true.
gas stuff.
That's
So
true, in
it's
the
interesting.
trenches.
It's really
So,
interesting.
so there'd be bombings in the trenches, and a lot of soldiers would get just buried alive. So the dog would just go around sniffing
Point
them,
them out.
yeah, and yeah, like warn people to try to, like us to rescue them. And this was in the middle of fire, like he was under
Yeah.
heavy fire all the time, and this
Yeah.
dog was
I can't
just
remember. Was it World War
ruthless.
One or two?
I think it was World War I, Brian, but I
I think
could
you're
be
right. I
wrong.
think you're right because it was in France. So I think
Correct.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. So funny you brought that up.
Yeah, yeah, but great work on it. So it was a lot of fun to watch.
I
So
think it didn't get the a shot at like
yeah,
being in front of people's screens,
right, yeah,
that's what I felt like. It just died before it even got a chance.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And that happens to some movies, doesn't it, Tim?
What's that?
I said, and that happens to some movies, doesn't it? Put a
Oh,
lot of work
dude.
into them, and
I've worked in a couple that didn't, like Iron Giant. I did not work on that one, but Catstone Dance. I worked in a couple that didn't get the love it rightly deserved. But they, if they don't put the marketing muscle behind it, that's on them. I mean, we made a great product, we made like awesome movies, and then you just see them die a
yeah,
horrible death and special. But they
I
get
have,
sometimes they get resurrected in the in the
yeah,
in the, in the next world, like DVDs and people, cult classics. And so yeah, there's always hope for even the most obscure films that don't get the initial love.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah.
hopefully. I
Some
have
of them come
a
back.
funny story. I have a funny
yeah,
story. Like back when I was at Real Effects, I was just like about to leave, and I was like, oh man, but should I leave? Because there's this other company doing this other cool project, and I was cast on Scoob 2, and eventually they did it. Like I decided to like leave. I was on another show, yada yada. But and a couple years pass, or a year and a half passes, and the movie was ready. Next thing I know, tax write-off, Warner Brothers decided to shelve that, even it was completed. It was the first time directing experience of this friend of mine who was I think it's Bill Haller. It was his first time directing. He had been like animation supervisor, and he was so sad. Like he was just so it hit hard. Everybody was on that movie. Like I knew the whole crew, and the movie was ready. It was done, and the minute it's done, it was just shelved. It,
wow.
it never. So that's
Yeah,
why we never saw it. But it's like ready, just ready to be distributed. These things happen. Like you said, like you never know. Like you're on a show and you never know what's going to happen to it.
it was
So it
Warner
might as well,
Brothers
just
both
in.
times with me. So Warner Brothers definitely, I don't know what their thinking is, but they don't believe in their own product. I mean, I think, what was that? The one that just came out the day the world blew up, or with Bugs Bunny, or no, Daffy Duck and whatever, Porky Pig. I think at first they were going to
Yeah.
shelve that. Like they did all
Yes.
this work on it, and they were going to
Yeah,
shelve it. And people finally said, "Come on!" Like people want to see it, and did
people want to
well.
see this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and it did well. I think. I mean, not blockbuster well, but it did quite well. I mean, I think it surprised the execs at WB there.
for sure,
But,
for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
Well,
it goes to show, like, yeah,
the bean counters, they look at something and they say, we can shelve this and take it up as a tax write-off
yeah,
this year, and then in 5 years we can go ahead and release it again, and we can still make money on it. So,
mm,
it's it. We talk about that when you see studios that are run by creators or a project that's run by creators, you see it being pushed out there and promoted well. But when it comes to studios that have just businessmen running everything, you see a lot of things go south really quick.
yeah.
Because they don't think in a creative mind, they think in a business mind, and it's all about the numbers. So, but,
And I think to the aspiring animators watching the show right now, like this can sound a little intimidating or a bit of a bummer, but I think it goes to show how important it is to enjoy the craft that you're doing as you're doing it. I think that obviously we want to see our stuff on the screen or on the big screen, or wherever, but you got to enjoy the process of doing what you're doing, because you never know what's going to happen. Like these are like obviously catastrophic things that happen, and it's not all like this all the time.
Right.
But what happens like often, what does happen often is like you're on a show, and all of a sudden like there's this sequence that got a major refurbish or that just got cut out, and you worked on that sequence, but you still have other sequences, and you might get stuff on your demo reel still.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. The journey, not the destination. If you can, yeah.
It sounds cliche, doesn't it? But
it is, but it's true. It's very true.
You got to hold on to something, otherwise you're just like, oh man, you can't just spend your days like anxious over the fact that your movie that you're spending a year on is going to get shelved. Like you can't work like that, right?
No.
Or you've got 10 spots in it, and 9 of them get cut, and so now you've just got this 1 2-second scene that you did, or something like that. So it's funny. There was an animator I was listening to one time. She said, "Well, I was so excited. It was my first big movie. I forget which movie it was, but they did the viewing for the families to come and watch it first, and she took her husband, and they sat down, and she was excited because she had this scene in it. And she said, I tapped him on the knee, and I said, that's it. And he wasn't looking, and he missed it. That was it. It was like, you worked on that for 4 weeks, and that's all you know. So, but yeah. So, and people don't understand what it takes to do an animated movie, whether it be 2D or 3D, until they're involved in the industry. People who just watch a movie just enjoy it and think that it, oh, well, people do this. They make a movie. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the way I was. I mean, even though I knew the art world a little bit, I didn't think about how long it took to do something like that. So, but Tim's pretty fast. He sends me animations all the time. He's always doing some kind of pickleball animation or something. But,
Guilty
as charged.
That's right.
So yeah. So if you've worked on films for Netflix and Paramount and NEG, and what surprised you most when you first stepped into a major feature animation studio?
That's a great question, because working in animation is different depending on whether you're working in games or if you're doing television series or if you're just doing your own thing and winging it, content creation. Well, like studios work very differently across the continents, but when we're like with different budgets and different sizes and all that, but when we're talking like feature quality from the very top leagues, I'd say the sheer creative and technical level that's expected from the artist, like you really need to show up, and you really need to give it your all. Like you might already, even if you already have experience in the industry and you've been around the block and you think you kind of know what you're expected to do, you really need to give it your all. And it turns out like well, you do need to, at some point, a director, or even if you're good, even if things are running smoothly, at some point a director or a type of style is going to catch you off guard, like, or a shot or a specific shot, like there's something, or like a blind spot of you that you have as an artist, like it's gonna catch you off guard. And the great thing about this is that you're constantly being shown those blind spots, and like in your craft, I mean, and fortunately, like I was talking previously before we started recording, and animation teams tend to like really be supportive, and more often than not, they'll try to help you succeed. Like it's a tight-knit community, and people want everybody else to thrive. Yeah. That's I think one of the greatest things about doing studio work in any studio, or almost any studio, and I think that's why studio work tends to make better talented artists than just solo creatives, really.
Yeah.
So without revealing any confidentiality or anything like that, how would you say that, since you've worked in different studios, I know Tim has too, would you say that, what is the difference in the way the pipelines work? Is it basically the same at every studio? Is it different in every studio?
No, pipelines are like differ a lot, even though software sometimes you actually work on is quite similar. But
Mhm.
what I think is the most surprising thing is the scale of collaboration. Like on a major feature, a shot is part of a much larger system, and clarity, communication, responding well to feedback become just as important as the animation you're doing itself, like that, because it's about like having this cluster of brains work towards creating the best possible output for that
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
So the creative principles are still the same, but there are more layers of review. Brainstorming, that's a huge thing. There's more brainstorming, and more brainstorming turns into more iterations and a much greater attention to the overall storytelling across the film. Like people are not just expecting you to be technically or creatively solid, but they're also expecting you to be able to switch, adapt, edit on the fly, because things are gonna be moved around and more emphasized. And I found like storytelling is of the essence, and it's really got to be like crystal clear and solid.
Yeah, yeah, it is. You can take a show that it may be just, I don't want to say bad, but just standard animation wise, and if it's got a good storyline, it's still a good show. But
Hmm.
you can take a show that is top-notch animation and doesn't have a good storyline, and it's not good to watch. So you've got to have a good story behind it.
It's so
So
many things at the same time. Like you got to be
yeah,
creatively proficient. You got to be able to technically understand how to tackle things.
mhm,
There's deadlines, there's time management, but at the same time, you also need to be aligned with the creative decisions of the story and
mhm,
as they move along, because everything's just dynamic. So it's like a flock of birds that need to move and maneuver,
yeah,
or an orchestra, and you're sort of like at times it's like improvising, and you don't know where things are going. Oh, there's this thing going on, and everybody's like got to switch and move and flow. It's fantastic, really, because you have to develop so much human soft skills as well.
yeah. And you've been a lead animator on some shows and projects. And of course, you have your own school. We'll mention it. What's it called? Give us a little
Yeah,
plug
it's
here.
yeah. So it's called Animastery. It's called Animastery, and it's my way of um, it's an animation education platform essentially, and that I created to help aspiring and early career animators bridge the gap between school exercises and production ready work. Schools are fine, but I find that sometimes bridging that gap is
Mhm.
important, especially, and I focus on character performance, acting choices, clear storytelling, and practical workflows. So the things I wish someone had explained to me back when I was starting out. Yeah.
Now, do you have
So
videos? How does that work? I mean, is there a
Yeah,
critique?
yeah, yeah. So it's essentially a lot of like video feedback sessions. There's obviously content creation. There's shorts. There's ebooks. There's small products that support. And eventually, I want this to create to develop into a bigger community where people can help each other, not just me being there. I also, one funny thing that I really enjoy also about Animastery is that I also use comedy in some parts, because animation education can sometimes feel overly technical or
mhm,
intimidating, and there's a lot of people like teaching online, obviously, and I think humor lets me talk honestly uh, about the industry while making people feel like they're not alone. So that's mainly also the point. Also, it gives like a more less bi-dimensional a picture of Animastery, and so I like that sort of like more laid back feel side of Animastery as well.
what's the biggest issues you see with your students as far as
Hmm.
I know that
Hmm.
every student is the same, but do you see more of one thing than another as far as things that they continually have to work on to get right? Whether it be squash and
Yeah.
stretch or holds, or my problem was always holds. And Tim's taught me a lot about that. But what do you see as being the most problematic for your students?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one thing I see in students, and even like in my moments as a lead animator or character specialist, is clarity. So clarity, or staging for like I refer to them both interchangeably. What I mean is as animators, we get lost in the details a lot of times. Like there's a lot of stuff that we need to take into account. Happens to me, happens to everybody. I think the only animators who never make this mistake about clarity that I'm about to mention are animators that don't animate, period. And so it's normal. There's just so many things. The real point is, why is this shot in the movie? You're animating a shot. Like this is like mainly for aspiring animators. Sometimes it's even for me. Like I need to remind myself of this after years and years and years. What are we telling story-wise? What's the reason behind this shot? And more often than not, I tend to see like animation fundamentals being used more to show a character moving believably, more than actually telling the shot's story in the clearest possible way, which is a lot more important. So a character's head, like for example, a character's head might need to be stiller in screen space so that we can read their expression better, because it might be about reading their expression, not about what they're doing really. Or maybe the performance is overacted and needs a major tone down. Or the pose needs to be held longer. Spacing of that, like arm gesture, that's way too quick. Like maybe needs a bit more massaging so the audience can really track the hand gesture right at the end where the eye of the audience should be. You know, okay. So we need to think more about what the shot means in the context of the movie before the action our character is doing, if that makes sense. So that's I think what I tend to see a lot in students. Like they could create their things right, their actions, their fundamentals, their squash and stretches, their timing, but what are they putting that at the service of, you know, storytelling wise?
Yeah, I think they race to get things moving. They want to complete the task, if you will, instead of like thinking what if. And the creative process is always like, how can I make this most interesting shot? Like you said, how does it serve the story? And,
exactly.
And you know, if you're directing your own little film or you're doing your own thing, I always think of camera. Like number one is like where you place that camera to get the most maximum, you know, effective. Like you said, like sometimes you got to slow the face down or slow the head down to get the dialogue to read or the expression, the emotion. But you know, when you just race and start doing things, you don't clearly see. Oh yeah, if I cut to this angle, or if I slow it down, or if I, you know. But and then timing is crucial too. I think with the slow, medium, fast, trying to get those. Layer in some interesting timing that's crucial too. I mean, like you said, I mean, I think storytelling is key, and you're right. Clarity is number one, man. I can't. You're so right.
As Tim always says, silhouette,
baby, silhouette, line of action.
Line of action, yeah. And a lot of people. A lot of people think, oh man, but why doesn't my demo reel work? I'm not getting attention, and we can also like talk demo reels since we're talking like students. And I'd say, like having a solid knowledge of the fundamentals is the entry bar, and that's no small thing already. Like it's huge because it's so hard to like nail the body mechanics and the acting, but you really got to make that like shine. And I think that like to the point of storytelling, what really makes a reel stand out, like to me, is when I see the student trying to go past like the school assignments and trying to create a story of their own. It doesn't have to be like a whole short, like a long. It could be just a couple shots, but where I can see that how they're putting their hard-earned skills into storytelling practice, and if they do it well, I think recruiters notice it and the gates sort of like open more. I don't know if that's also your experience, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Tim, you got any questions? We'll do some rapid fire here. If you got questions for him.
You're pretty good about this. I like your question. I had one or two. You go right ahead right now. I think
No. If you got questions, or you feel free. I mean, well, one of the things I'd ask you is, you know, what's your favorite animated performance of all time, whether you did it or not?
Oh no, it wasn't. It sure as hell wasn't me doing it. No. Well, those change all the time. But I would say So there's it's a funny story. So my son, he's 6, and about like 2 years ago, he was obsessed by the Boss Baby, the first one,
Yeah.
DreamWorks
Yeah.
Boss Baby, and well, I'm not gonna lie, I like that movie, but he would just burst into laughter, almost crying, in this scene where I think it was a JP Sands shot of the Boss Baby, um, saying, I think it's like I think he was saying he was cynically telling Timmy things are about to change, Timmy, and there's not so much there's not too, love for everybody to go around. So there's like he starts like playing with the beads on one of like those like little baby chairs. It's not enough. Oh, and then there's a puzzle. And, oh, you're not fitting in. And he's super cynical and sarcastic. And what I like about that performance is that the baby's head is huge. So there's I don't know how he managed to do it. Like he was pulling off all this stuff like within this screen space and with so much expression and just the expressions of the guy. It was just and it ends with him like laughing manically, like no Timmy, like there's no place here for you, and like laughing in his face. It's just so hilarious. It's so mean at the same time. But my son would kind of pick it up and laugh at it, and I guess that by some sort of osmosis, that became one of my favorite character performances.
Awesome.
It's funny because JP is a good friend of mine. JP Sands, anybody who's watching this, he's really amazing. And he did a great, it was a podcast so much, but it was a video on subtext. And it's really good about subtext. I don't know if you've seen that one. Sir Wade shot it, I think, a friend of mine too. But yeah, JP definitely thinks outside the box and he considers everything. And that's what makes him so good, I think, just that ability. Well, Brian gave me one good question here. I'm going to ask it though, because you put it under my name. So when you're handed a sequence by a director, and this, I know this at DreamWorks, we were given so much freedom. So anyway, so when you're handed a sequence or a scene, how much freedom do you actually, can you bring to your own acting choices? Like, are they pretty flexible? Because I know at DreamWorks, they were pretty open and dependent on the movie and the director, but in your experience, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic because some directors have a very clear idea of what they want and will call you out. Like the second anything's off, a hand or an expression or what have you, like you steer off of the performance they had in mind, they'll call it out. But in general, to your point, I think directors actually require, I don't know if this was always a thing because you've been around longer than I have, but they require the animator to create acting choices because it helps them better understand if their vision works. Like you see something in your head, but when you're actually seeing the choices that are tailored to the vision, to the best of the artist's ability, that's when you really make a call like, hey, wait, okay, well, what I was thinking maybe is not quite right. Like maybe we kind of need to tone this down. Maybe we kind of need to like go this other route. And so I think we're at the I think we're at the service of the director and also directors at our service as well. As we kind of like pitch our ideas and that helps like tailor this was actually one of the things that inspired me so much as an animator back when I was starting out, because you live your life, you experience things and you savor your experiences. You build this library of things you can pull up from your life, and you can bring them into a movie, and people will applaud you for it. People will like it, and they will say, "Oh, this is amazing." Like I'm shooting stuff with my kids for when like kids are in the movie, and in some way those things actually go into and are cherished and even needed at times because they're genuine, right? So I think to your point, I'd say a lot of freedom, really. Like if I look back, but provided you do your best to align with their intention in your takes, right? It's not just doing whatever and they're gonna make this movie mine. No, but there's just so much nuance that you can't possibly just cognitively conceive without having a repertoire of lived experience you can pull from. I think that's what I mean.
With those lived experiences, do you ever put, or have you ever put, and I'll ask Tim this too, have you ever put an Easter egg in that only you knew what you were doing?
Oh
And
boy.
it got by and made it into the film?
Can you go first, Tim? I'm so curious.
You know what? I mean, there was always a watchful eye on it. At Disney for sure. Like they wouldn't allow some of the smaller studios I worked with Dale Bear. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was an amazing force in the animation world. And he started his own studio, and I worked with him for like 4 years and worked on a lot of good stuff. A lot of Disney stuff actually too, Prince and the Pauper, Mickey Mouse stuff, but a lot of stuff. But I remember one time it was a movie. It was called Book of Love. I think they made another one up. I think maybe even Disney. I don't forget who did it. It wasn't Disney. Sony.
Book of Love was similar to Coco, wasn't it?
Yes. It was like the Day of the Dead type of thing. Yeah.
Oh wait, isn't it the Book of Life?
Book of Life, maybe.
Book of Life, right?
Life.
Yeah.
It wasn't. No, it was a whole different. I'm sorry. It was called the Book of something. Anyway, I'm trying to remember this story, so to speak. But Dale gave us liberty to go and do our. You're talking about going off deeper, trying to keep in alignment with the director. He says, I don't care about this movie. I mean, and I'd say that any disrespect, but he wanted us to just go off, and not an Easter egg so much. Brian is like. Just insanity. Like we had the full range to just go crazy, and that was spectacular. But I wasn't thinking like, well, somebody is going to see this little thing in the corner I put, and it looks like Katzenberg. Although I've done that before too, as a joke. I've definitely done like I take some of the rigs, Tiago, and I think I showed Brian this. I took a Hiccup, and I turned Hiccup into all the. Obama came to the studio, and I turned Hiccup into Obama. Like I took his rig. Yeah.
Why was Obama at the studio?
So yeah, I kind of like I go off on tangents sometimes, but never an Easter egg where people are like, oh yeah, I think that's Spielberg in the background, or that's some silliness. But how about you?
I can't possibly top that. But what I will say is a very dear story. That I don't think I've ever told this to anybody. So when I was on Sergeant Stubby, there's this moment where Conrad or Conroy, I forget the name of the guy. He's the protagonist. Well, the second protagonist, the one that befriends the dog. He's sick, and he misses the dog. So I think they're kind of like torn apart, and he's wondering where he is, and we're not sure if the guy's going to make it. This is a bit of a spoiler, and there's a moment where there's this big close-up shot of his face. He's just breathing. He's sick, and he's closing his eyes, and we're not sure what's happening to him. And I'm like, this is such a nuanced emotional thing. I was like, how could I possibly do this convincingly and sincerely? And so I went to the reference room, and I remember it was like Montreal winter. It was depressing. It was my first winter here. It was cold. It was dark, and it was solitary. And I was like, I remember like just lying there and thinking, well, I gotta probably think of something really depressing to try to act this out. And so I went into like this sort of like trance, and I imagined this very dear cat that I had, like, and one of my very first encounters with something or someone passing away dear to me was with that cat. And so I really went in there, and I started, and I got the take. I started animating it, and it was like instant approval. The supervisor said, I remember the supervisor was super funny. He would always end his sentences with a falsetto. So he would say, man, this guy, you see Tiago, he just animated a guy. Conroy died today. He's just dead today. He animated a guy died today. Like, good job.
You killed him.
You killed him. You just did a character die today. And I was like, man, how well this turned out right. But I was really like in the moment, it's one of those things that you just like, the shot just slid like butter. It's so cool. But that's never like an Easter egg, like fun. I think I'm more of like, I went more to the drama, tragic side, whereas Tim goes to the comedic side.
Yeah.
I got stories off camera. I just thought of one, but I'm not going there. I remember, and I didn't get into trouble so much. People were horrified. They used my shot, the scene I animated, as a screensaver. Like, some of the people loved what I was doing so much. But I definitely got a talking to. I wasn't fired, but anyway, I'll tell you off screen someday. Maybe Brian, I don't think I told you this, but yeah.
I don't know. You've told me a lot of different stories.
Off the record, baby.
I only believe about half of them, so.
Yeah.
I'll run through some really quick hot questions real quick, and you can just rattle them off. Coffee or energy drinks during crunch time?
I'm European, man. Like, coffee all day, in and out of crunch.
Favorite animation book?
I would say Ed Hook's Acting for Animation, or Animators.
Okay.
And maybe, I mean, I've read The Illusion of Life. I've read the Animator Survival Kit, but what struck a chord was with Ed Hook's was how he explains the dynamics of a scene between the characters, and how scenes are a negotiation between characters. That really like stuck with me.
Cool. Dream project if you could animate anything?
Dream project. I always like saying that I'm a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, and that I'd love to animate a feature starring Sonic, but not live action, not like the ones they're doing. And if it had a cartoony style, like all the better. Like that. It sounds kind of random, but I have all sorts of Sonic stuff. Like, even my kids draw Sonic, and they're not as big fans of Sonic, but they draw Sonics for me.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. So, if you could leave every animator watching this podcast with one piece of advice that could generally change their career over the next year, what would it be?
So this is so everybody's situation is different. Because I know that talent is a lot more widespread than opportunities are. But what I will say is that right now there's a big elephant in the room, the AI, which we didn't talk a lot about. But I would say, don't be scared of AI. What I mean is, if you want to learn AI, that's fine. But learn the animation fundamentals first. Like, really, really learn them. As an artist, you need to make you need to make tons of decisions, like creative, technical decisions. And each one of those decisions, those minute decisions, is like a note on a music score. And if you don't understand the craft that goes behind each of those notes, you don't understand what you're playing. You don't understand the song you're creating. So what I will say is, learn how to play, and you will excel. That's what I would say. Yeah,
that's a good point. So. Well, Tiago, thank you for being on Ask the Animators today. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. We look forward to seeing everything that you do. Look forward to working with you in the future. We will put, what is your website for your school?
Animastery.net.
Animastery.net. Make sure you check it out. The link will be in the information down below. Again, we want to thank you for being here with us. As we say it, Ask the Animators. Happy animating. Thank you, Tiago.
Thank you, Tiago. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me on. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
See ya. Bye.
It was great talking to Tiago today. He's a wonderful animator. We appreciate him sharing his journey with us here on the podcast today and sharing it with all of you. We hope you enjoyed it. We would love for you to come back and continue to watch, share our podcast with your friends, get everybody signed up and subscribed, because the more people we have watching our podcast, the better it will go, the more likely it is that it will continue, and we'll get all these great interviews that we've been getting. You know, we started out the podcast answering questions from people who send in emails, and then doing a little bit of animation industry news, and then talking about our passion project, Fan TV, at the end. The last few podcasts have been about our interviews with some amazing people. We've had Aaron Blaze, we've had John Pomeroy, and we've had Tony Bancroft. And now we've had Tiago, and we've got more people lined up for interviews. If you have a podcast, or if you're an animator, maybe you're an independent animator that maybe you teach classes, or maybe you have a story that you think other animators and creators would like to hear, reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you got to say, see if it's something that would fit on our podcast, and have you come on and tell us about what you're doing with your passion projects. Just reach out to us at asktheanimators@gmail.com. You can also reach us through our website, which is familyanimatio.net. And the email for that, you can send it directly to me at brian@familyanimatio.net. We also do a giveaway once a month. If you email us at asktheanimators@gmail.com, put in the subject line, entry. Then once a month, we'll send out a gift to one lucky person. Usually it's a set of 4 of these 2D animation disc drink coasters. We've got a few other things that we are giving out. It could be a pencil holder that looks like a 2D animation disc. Tim has some animation cells that he signs, and we'll send those out. It depends on what we're giving out that month, but once a month we will give those out. We will send those to you. Just drop us an email at asktheanimators@gmail.com and put in the subject line entry, and we'll put you in for the drawing. We appreciate you being here today. Be sure to check out all our podcasts, share it with your friends, ask everybody to follow us and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out our website at www.familyanimatio.net. It tells all about Tim and I's passion project, which is Fan TV, which is going to be a streaming TV channel that focuses on family-friendly animation. And if you have a project, if you have a short, if you have a feature, maybe you have a podcast, we'd like to talk to you because we'd love to put it on our channel when we launch. We're going to be launching our Founders Edition, which will only run for about 8 months to begin with as a proof of concept. But if you're interested in being on that channel, now's the time to do it, because if you come in as a founder, you're guaranteed to go on the station when we go full blown after the 8 months. Contact me at brian@familyanimatio.net or here at asktheanimators@gmail.com. Happy animating, everyone!